I'm Harrison Graham. On today's episode of Chicago Bears Now, we dive into some storylines that are lurking as the Bears host the Saints on Sunday afternoon. Back in the noon window for the first time since week 2 when the Bears got drubbed in Detroit. But good to be back home. First home game since Dallas in week 3. A lot of fun angles here with this matchup. Some player storylines, coach storylines, a couple of revenge game angles. Is this a trap game? We're going to get into it all coming up here on Chicago Bears Now. But if you're going to join us this Sunday for our Bears Saints watch party, this is our thumbnail. If you see this, you're in the right place. That's myself, producer Cullen, Chicago Bears Now. We'll go live at 10:45 a.m. Central Time for a 12 o'clock noon game. Full pregame show. We'll stay live during the game. And, of course, we'll have our live postgame right here on Chicago Bears Now. So subscribe and join us this Sunday. Okay, let's get to some Bears-Saints storylines. Is this a textbook trap game? There are a lot of things that point to that. Let's first dive into the obvious one. Well, you're coming off an emotional win, right? Against the Washington Commanders, Monday Night Football, everything that happened last year. That was a high motivation game going into it. Like, I've said it a couple times this week. Winning this game against the Saints after that, especially if it's in a straightforward manner, would almost impress me more about this team and coaching staff than that win did, because that win, you had all the motivation in the world after what happened last year. So I think responding and winning this week would be impressive. It's just a short week, so that could lead to a trap. And the Saints are inferior on paper, so this could be a look-ahead spot. Oh, you got the Ravens next week. It's being reported Lamar is going to be back. That could end up being a high-stakes game for both the Bears and the Ravens. So there are legitimate reasons for the cliche textbook letdown spot game here. All those things I just said. So that's why I've said all week, the theme of the week has got to be focus. And I trust this coaching staff to make sure this team remains focused. But you come out flat lackadaisical, this Saints team can give you trouble. I mean, they're scrappy for 1-5. So I trust the Bears to not overlook them. But there are some ingredients here of what would be labeled as that textbook trap game. Are you concerned about this being a trap game? Type Y for yes, type in for no. I would say like very lowly, mildly concerned. I'm not major concerned because I just think this team has a different feel and energy right now. I do trust this coaching staff, but these are human beings. It's human nature coming off a game like that to let down a little bit. So hopefully that doesn't happen. I think being at home helps. If this was in the Superdome, I would be more concerned. But I think being back at Soldier Field can help the Bears avoid that trap a little bit better. Okay, Dennis Allen revenge game. We briefly spent some time on this during our preview episode. Go check that out if you want more kind of X's and O's, numbers breakdown, keys to victory for this game. That's on the channel in the content tab. Dennis Allen was asked about this on Thursday when the coordinators speak, and he said, this is the NFL. Everybody is trying to win this week. I probably wouldn't try to make anything more of it than what it is. It's the next opponent on the schedule. I'm sure they feel the same way. We're excited about the opportunity. I think in terms of just the on-the-field part of this, and look, I think, the game starts, Dennis Allen sees his opponent out there, some former players, competitive fire kicks into gear, right? Like there might be a little something extra there, but I think DA is a competitive guy regardless of who he's going against. So I mostly believe him when he says that. I also know this to be true. He knows the Saints offensive personnel well. 9 of 11 starters from last year are still the starters this year. Spencer Rattler finished the last 5 or 6 games last year as the starting quarterback. He's the guy still, despite them drafting Tyler Shuck. Alvin Kamara still the starting running back. Kendre Miller still their number 2. Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed still the top 2 receivers. Juwan Johnson still the starting tight end. Trevor Penning still the starting left guard. They moved him inside last year. Erik McCoy, Cesar Ruiz, still your starting center and right guard. Fuaga played some left tackle last year, so that's a bit of a change. He's been their full-time right tackle this year, but DA still knows him very well. So 9 of 11 starters are back. The only major difference is Kelvin Banks at left tackle. Pretty much everything else is the same when it comes to the Saints. Brandon Cooks is their number 3 receiver, but Dennis Allen has gone up against him a lot in his career, I would imagine, as well, as he's been in this league a long time. Another thing Dennis said is that this Saints team is continuing to improve. I completely agree. I've said it all week. This is what I would call a good 1-5 team. This is not the Titans, who are a joke of a 1-5 team. This is not the Jets, who are an embarrassing 0-6 team. Even the Browns, who are good on defense, I think this Saints team is better than that. So this is not a game you can just show up and expect to win. The Saints can beat you. They are a few plays away from being 3-3, if not 4-2. I do expect Dennis Allen to have a strong game plan. I do expect him to have a competitive fire in this game. I don't think he'll make it too much more than what it is. Again, I think some of those, competitive things will kick in once the game actually gets here on Sunday. But, I think it's a storyline for us on the outside, not as much on the inside. I think the revenge aspect from last week, way stronger across the board than Dennis Allen going up against the Saints. Okay, Caleb Williams versus Spencer Rattler. For those who don't know, and I think most of us do, they were both at Oklahoma at the same time for a year. We'll kind of revisit that and talk all about that angle of it, plus some quotes from Spencer and Caleb that took place this week. But first, I want to tell you guys about our awesome sponsor, Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Looking to get back on the saddle this week after missing my most recent Prize Picks lineup. And I got to say, with basketball coming back soon and hockey getting going, I'm going to start mixing in some other sports with Prize Picks as well. You can do that, by the way. You could have a player with a football player, or a lineup with a football player, a basketball player, a hockey player, a soccer lineup, all in the same lineup. The only thing that you need to qualify for a lineup is to pick 2 or more players on 2 or more different teams and pick more or less on the stat projections available. You do that, it qualifies for a Prize Picks lineup. Prize Picks is also the only app that offers stacks, meaning you can pick the same player up to 3 times in one single lineup. So if you want to take more on Caleb Williams' pass yards, rush yards, and touchdowns, you can do so right now on Prize Picks. I've got a 3-player lineup that I like, and I'm sure I'll find some more lineups to fire off this week. I like Trevor Lawrence to throw for at least 1 touchdown pass, so give me the more than half a touchdown. Caleb Williams, more than 228.5 passing yards, threw for 252 last week in an average game for him. So I like 228.5 at home against the Saints. I also like Cam Scatterbo, more than half a rushing or receiving touchdown. Demon play there, while the T-Law one is a goblin, so kind of evens out there. $20 entry to win $80 on this 3-player lineup. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use our code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That is code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Okay, let's talk about this quarterback matchup. Don't forget, Spencer Rattler and Caleb Williams were being coached at Oklahoma by Lincoln Riley at the same time. Spencer Rattler was a redshirt sophomore when Caleb Williams came on campus and was the backup. They actually competed for the starting job. Lincoln Riley stuck with Rattler, who had a really good redshirt freshman season, was also a 5-star recruit a couple of years prior. And if you remember, going into that season, he was the preseason #1 overall pick. Caleb's on the record back in the day saying he thought he'd be out Rattler in training camp. He's also on the record back in the day that the idea that these guys hated each other was completely false. They're not homies or anything, and there's quotes this week that we'll point to in a second, but Caleb ends up taking Rattler's job and beating Texas in the Red River Showdown in that epic comeback win in 2021. And I don't know if I've ever said this on this channel. I was talking to producer Colin about this. I was actually at Caleb Williams' first collegiate start. I'm a TCU alum and fan. I drove up to Norman, Oklahoma, and watched that game, and that was Caleb's first start, and he went nuclear. So kind of full circle moment that he's become the Bears quarterback. So kind of a fun little nugget there for you guys. But let's get to some quotes from each of these quarterbacks. Here was Spencer Rattler talking about his opponent this week and his former teammate. This was him about being benched in favor of Caleb Williams. He says, "It is what it is. We all have our own paths. The past is the past. We're focused on the present and the future. That led me to South Carolina. It was a blessing in disguise that I got to play with the Gamecocks and develop there." Rattler also said this about the relationship or lack thereof between the two. He said, "We're cordial. I'll say what's up to him at the game. Got respect for him. Good player." So, and we'll get to Caleb in a second, but I think kind of a look, like they recognize each other, but like they're not texting each other, right? And listen, not everybody has to be best friends. I think that stuff gets overplayed sometimes. Caleb had this to say about Spencer and his former teammate. He said, "We haven't really spoken much. We don't really keep up that much, but I'm excited for the matchup. I know he's excited. We'll go out there and have a blast." So I'm sure there will be a little moment before the game. Hey, good luck. Keep doing your thing. Yada yada. Everything we see after the game as well. But they're not going to be buddies. Caleb took his job. Like, why they were competing. I think they respect each other, which they both said, but why would they be best friends? Like, that's not a surprise whatsoever. They're competitors, but I also don't sense any bad blood. You have these bullshit accounts on Twitter like Dov, who are like, "Oh my God, Spencer Rattler said, we're cordial. He clearly doesn't like who cares? Like, that's so over-exaggerated and played out. Both guys are highly touted. They were both former 5-star recruits. I actually gave Rattler a lot of credit. I was kind of out on him, and he's come out here and played well this year. So they believe in themselves. They're talented guys, and it's going to be fun to see these two duke it out on Sunday. Who do you guys think has the better game this week? Type C-Dub for Caleb Williams or SR for Spencer Rattler? Hopefully it's our guy, and I like how our guy's playing. Okay, the revenge game no one's talking about, I think Trizzy Trace might be talking about it on Saints Now, is the Kendre Miller revenge game. I'm not sure how familiar you guys are with this, but Kendre Miller, TCU Horned Frog, by the way, him and Dennis Allen reportedly hate each other. There was like heavy whispers early on in his time there. Kendre was recovering from a nasty injury. If you guys remember, when TCU beat Michigan with the national title game, Miller got hurt in that semifinal game, had to have a surgery, never quite seemed right his rookie year. Then last year he retweaked something. I remember there being rumors of like Dennis Allen and the medical, like something, a disagreement between the medical staff and Miller's status or something, and those two just never got along. He was in DA's doghouse most of his time there. You look at the numbers here. He played 8 games as a rookie, 6 in his second year, so he didn't play that much. A, due to injuries, and B, due to Dennis Allen. I just either not trusting him, not liking him, whatever the case may be. This year he's having a pretty good year as the number 2 behind Kendre Miller. So I'm expecting that guy to be pretty motivated for this matchup. He's actually been a little more efficient than Alvin Kamara, despite being more of a physical runner. He's averaging 4 yards per carry. Kamara is actually just at 3.8. But I think that for him is a storyline. For the Bears, it's not a huge one, but keep an eye on Kendre Miller and Alvin Kamara. Those two guys can obviously have really good games here. And then lastly, just with the trade deadline here and with the Saints potentially becoming sellers, there's already been chatter on some guys they could look to trade. Are there some potential trade targets for the Bears in this game? Some guys that have been mentioned, Alvin Kamara, who sounds like he does not want to get traded. He extended with the Saints last year, wants to stay with New Orleans, despite them not being a contender. So we'll see if that stance changes or if the Saints opt to trade him anyway. The Bears aren't going to trade for a receiver, but Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed have been mentioned. So is Brandon Cooks, for what it's worth. Cameron Jordan, 36, 37 years old. Does he want to get up and move, even if it's just for a few months? I think he could help this Bears defensive line. So could Carl Granderson coming off the edge, a player that Cullen Brown, our producer, mentioned way back in July as a potential midseason trade target. So could the prophecy be fulfilled? And then Alante Taylor, kind of a corner nickel hybrid. We did a full video on potential cornerback trade, as a source told me that could happen. He could be a player to monitor as well. You guys let me know. Is there a player on the Saints the Bears should trade for? I know some people would say Chase Young. I haven't heard his name mentioned in trade talks up to this point. If you could get him for a reasonable pick, I'd be interested. He does have a fairly extensive injury history, so I wouldn't want to give up a day 1 or day 2 draft pick. But 4th, 5th, I'd consider that if I was the Bears, but we'd have to wait and see. All right, there you have it. Some storylines. Don't fall into the trap. I don't think it's a big trap game, but I do think it's a game where if you don't play well, the Saints could beat you. So hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications. We will be live this Sunday, 10:45 a.m. Central Time with kickoff set for noon.